First, though, should the government give poorer families more benefits? 020 7862 2222 is the number. We love your calls on this. Child poverty is at an unbearable level in the UK, according to one paediatrician, as more than three-quarters of children's doctors have warned that poverty-related illness has increased over the last 2 years. Keir Starmer pledged to leave no stone unturned to give every child the very best start at life. When the ministerial taskforce to work on a child poverty strategy was announced on July 17th last year, the Labour government has faced continued pressure to scrap the two-child benefit limit. That's been refused by them, partly because of the pressure from all these rebellions they've had from their backbenches. So do they need to change their outlook here and give poorer families more benefits? What do you think, Phil?
I mean, great idea. I mean, I just feel ashamed that we live in a country which is the sixth richest country on the planet, and we got more and more poor children who are being, because of their poverty, they're sick and ill. We should all share that shame.
When you say we're the sixth, isn't it like someone buying a massive house with money they borrow and calling themselves rich, when actually they're just indebted? And we're just drowning in debt.
Our debt is less than many other countries, and that's not the point. The point is how much income we generate each year. And sure, the debt is big, but my point is the debt's partly big because the rich don't avoid paying tax here. We got more rich people in this country than we've ever had before. The economy's bigger than it's ever been before. Just the rich are sucking more of that wealth from that economy than they ever have before. And the result is we have the crash, the bankers caused the crash, but poor get blamed, have their benefits taken off them. That's one reason they're getting poorer. We have COVID, we have the cost of living crisis, which hasn't gone away. Some of us might think it has. It's still there for a lot of poor people in this country. The poor are getting poorer, the rich are getting poorer, rich are getting richer, and they're not paying their share of taxes.
Angela, what do you think? So that is why we need to increase benefits for the poorest.
I disagree with all of that, because there's an awful lot of rich people who are now leaving this country because they.
That's in doubt. That's in some doubt. I'll show you the. What
figures. Is it? We're told a millionaire every 45 minutes, and that's
it. That's been questioned.
Remember, they are the wealth creators. They create businesses. They employ people. They pay large amounts of tax. If they all go, then what happens next? And the employment bill is going to knuckle a lot of businesses like that. But circling down into the question, I think, of course, we want to be a compassionate society. Of course, we want to help those. And the very idea that children in this day and age live in poverty is terrible.
It's shameful.
However, it is shameful. All of those things are true. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. But poverty is complex, and you can either give people a quick fix, not knowing how that money is going to trickle down to help the children that are in those situations. What if you've got drug-addled parents? What if you've got households where they won't manage the money properly and help those children? I think there are systemic issues that need to be addressed where the money would be better served.
Just coming up with excuses, aren't we, for not doing it?
Well, I can tell you what they are. I mean, I did listen to you respectfully. You know, improve even things like paying for children to go to holiday clubs, so that they're going to get food during the holidays. There's not going to be 6 weeks at home in a maybe a jobless household. Better educational opportunities. Look at the housing situation in this country, people living in temporary housing. All of these are big issues, and we have to get to the root cause of poverty, and we're not addressing that.
The root cause of poverty is people haven't got enough money. I mean, let's just be simple about it.
But when is enough?
We have people call in, Phil, who say, and it sounds brutal, but if you can't afford to raise children, don't have 4 or 5.
Well, the Western world is short of children. We covered that story as well.
Yes.
There's far fewer children. We need more children to support the growing population, older population. I work in a food bank.
Yeah.
And there are people. We can all find these stories of people who behave badly and they're poor because of their own fault. The vast majority aren't. And the vast majority, they don't want handouts. They want a fishing rod so they can fish themselves, while the rich are trawling all the wealth and all the fish themselves. They want help to get onto a level where their children aren't ill, sick, because they're poor. And that is, I say it again, shameful.
Go on, Angela.
But what about the issue of this cycle of welfare dependency, where we have this vast number of jobless economically inactive households. I never know the difference between the two. We have the fact that there is a situation in certain sort of demographic circumstances where it's more profitable not to work than to claim benefits. We saw that story earlier this week. There's a limited pot from tax receipts, and we have to know that pot goes to where it's most needed. So first of all, if you just start having a one-size-fits-all giving out of handouts, first of all, how many handouts will help to lift
Let's
people?
not call it handouts is what rich people say when they want to disparage the fact that we're...
Well, I'm not a rich
I call it
person.
investing in people, investing in poverty to stop it.
Well, if you want to invest, then you have to tackle the root cause in order to break that terrible cycle of children living in situations where they're...
Never will. Maybe you never will. I don't know.
But we should be able to. If you look at people, the people that came here to escape persecution at the turn of the century, that worked, that had nothing, that worked on market stalls, that built themselves...
You mean the turn of the last century?
Turn of the last century, that built themselves... A lot of immigrant communities that came here with nothing and had nothing to do.
And you don't think that happens now?
And let's get a call. Douglas is in West Sussex listening to this. Who do you think is right, Douglas?
Well, I'm astonished this morning because I'm leaning towards Angela, which is as rare as rocking horse manure. The thing is, it depends why these people are poor. Yeah, it depends why these people are poor. If it's because of low wages, then surely you have to up the minimum wage or do what Nigel Farage wants to do, up the tax threshold so that these people keep more of their money. Because we can't have the welfare state, subsidising businesses.
Hang on a minute, what if the business says I can't pay my employees anymore because then I'll just go out of business? How does that work?
Yeah, I've heard all this from employers before. Ask the employer, the boss, how much he's on. And you'll be amazed. I've lived through this where you were. Well,
I've talked to small business owners who are paid less than their staff because they own the business. They're not on the minimum wage themselves. Interestingly,
this is complete nonsense, Jeremy. They're fooling you. These people are on a fortune. They all live in a nice big house. They've got a nice big car, and they have holidays every year. And yet they plead poverty. I've worked for these people. I've lived this where you were supposed to, under the Thatcher government, you were supposed to work for peanut wages all week and then claim family income supplement to top up so in other words you went cap in hand to the social security at the end of the week because the wages you'd worked hard for all week weren't enough to keep
you raise a good point there. That is a slightly separate thing, but it is the fact that if the government says we will top up wages that are low, employers know they can pay low wages because the government will make up. And Gordon Brown was onto that. Credit to him. He said we can't allow a system where we actually allow employers to underpay knowing that they'll get a benefit. Thank you, Douglas. Interesting. Amy in London, who do you agree with?
I always agree with Angela, and today is no exception. She said it beautifully, as always. I just think welfare dependency, just as Angela said, this is what you want to get away from. And I just think whilst there's many responsible parents who, I can only speak from experience. I have a neighbour who they go on holiday every year. The shopping that I observe, I'm not a nosy neighbour or anything, but I observe, sometimes things they're buying full of wine and beer. And then if we ever do have a conversation, I haven't paid my gas bill because I couldn't afford it. Do you know what? Me and my husband are working. We get a little bit of universal credit for our children. We haven't had a holiday in 3 years. We buy a bottle of wine maybe once every 2 weeks. Do you know what I mean? As I say, I'm not speaking for everyone, but there is a lot of parents.
Well, that's it, Phil. This is the problem. Let Phil answer this because Phil, you're thinking about Amy's neighbours, not about Amy.
Yes, hello, Amy. You're hardworking and you're doing your bit, and we know there are exceptions. But I work in a food bank, and I come across real hardship. A woman came in a few months ago and she was in tears, and I said, "What's the matter?" She said, "I'm just so ashamed to be here and receiving handouts." I said, "They're not handouts. We're here to help." I know that everybody knows that any system's going to have people pulling a leg. We know that. But there are millions, and these figures prove it. Children, it's not their fault, whatever their parents are doing anyway. It's not their fault they're poor and getting sick. They're ill because they're poor. We need to do something about it. And the rich are just getting richer. On the 4th of January, the the top executive has earned in 4 days what the average person earns in an entire year by the 4th of January. That's the disparity in this country.
All right, Amy, thank you for your call. After the break, we'll take now more calls on whether the government should give more benefits to poorer families. Yvonne in Flintshire, do you think they should?
No, I don't.
So everyone is saying that today. Phil's on his own here slightly. You don't think he's right to think we can't have 4.5 million poor children?
I don't. I think they get enough. I live on £12,750 a year.
Yeah.
My husband's on the minimum wage. We survive.
And that is that your salary or your pension? Forgive me.
My pension. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the state pension.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I'm under. It's a private pension, but I refuse to pay tax on my pension, so I keep it to 12,750.
Yeah, we've heard so many stories about this. As soon as it goes over, you get completely clobbered. So okay, I hear you. But you think you're getting about the same? Well, actually, funny enough, when I say about the same as somebody on benefits, the story recently was that people on full benefits, you earn more than the average wage now. No more than the wage you get on the minimum
staff
wage.
And all sorts of things.
Yeah.
You know.
But I agree with what's been said with Yvonne. We have to find a way to incentivise people to be able to work so that work
by making them poorer and poorer.
That's
kind of medieval.
No, it isn't medieval. It's sensible. It's look. For example, we have a lot of single parent families in this country. You know, a lot of principally women through no fault of their own.
No fault of their own.
No fault of their own, have been left to raise the children. Childcare is phenomenally expensive in this country. I would rather that money went to people who needed it, rather. So the money's going.
You're about to say deserve, because this idea that only some poor people deserve it, and every one of those children deserves to have a good life.
We get it. Okay, semantically, you're right. Okay, wrong word to use, but this idea of if this is the pot, let's make sure that money is targeted, because otherwise, if you don't address the systemic issues and you have short-term fixes, it's the classic cliched band-aid policy. People can live within their means, as Yvonne said, if they want to, but children need to be able to help to get their right education.
Okay.
All those
We've got loads of calls. Yvonne, thank you. Heather in Morrisshire, hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm really well, thank you, Heather. What do you think?
I agree with Angela today, but what we do in Scotland, all the children under 7 get a free school meal no matter what their income is. Over 7, parents have to pay for the school meal.
I think they're trying that in London now, actually. Yeah, they've for various reasons thought it might be a better system, but obviously it's expensive, and I don't know how you're paying for it.
Well, to be honest with you, it's expensive, but you know that the meal is going to the child, because there's some families that aren't using the benefit to the benefit of the child. As the person has said previously, going on holidays or buying things that aren't really necessary. Mm-hmm. At least it's good. And in the holidays, the local council gives the families that are really struggling, they give them so much money a day for food.
Okay, Heather, thank you. Lisa, thank you so much. Lisa in Kent, hello. What do you think we should do? Should we pay more benefits to the poorest?
Hello.
Hello, Lisa.
Hiya. I agree with both, and I think personally, what is your definition of poor? Because I believe there are a lot of people who are abusing the benefit system. So how do we know who needs the benefits and who doesn't? And I know there are people that are really struggling, and there are people that say they're struggling, and there's a difference. And how are we monitoring that? Like I receive benefits myself.
Yeah.
And I'm a single mum.
Right.
And I work.
And your benefits are because it's a disability thing, or what is it? Do you mind telling me?
Universal credit is just to help top up, because I work as much as I can, single mum, I've got to do the school run and stuff like that. But in the sense that there are people that are abusing it. But then I was, sorry, I've forgotten his name, Gary. He works in a food bank. I use a food bank. And I think society, sorry.
That's all right.
People don't use food banks because they're too proud, or this generation don't want to do stuff like that. And what are we doing to make sure that people are fully using what's out there before saying, here, just have some money? Because what's the incentive? When you get poor, let's just have some more money. Let's just have some more money. And instead of go out and get a job that you can do, there are so many jobs out there. There are so many things that we can do. I just personally think the more we give people, the more they're just going to expect all the time, and we're not going to make this country better. It's just going to get worse and worse.
Thank you, Lisa, very much. Something with benefits generally, where maybe our standards have shifted in terms of who we think should expect them. And I say that because I had a call on my radio show about a year ago. I always remember saying that this caller said that their dad had a car accident and had lost his leg, but this is going back to the 50s, right? And they said he never thought, even though he'd lost a leg, he didn't even think of claiming a benefit.
Yep.
Whereas now probably that would be the first thought.
Well, the root causes of poverty, ironically, cannot be resolved by money in terms of just giving people money. We've just had, Phil. We've just had Lisa on.
Illogical statement to make.
No, it isn't.
If you're poor and you give people
we've just had, I'm going to keep
money,
talking.
they won't be poor anymore.
Okay, that is a good point, that if you're poor and you give people money, they're not poor anymore. So that's sort of the logic.
Yeah, but how do you, like I said at the beginning, how do you break that cycle? How do you
By giving them money.
People? Yeah, but where do you encourage the skills? What about having school holiday clubs? What about having helping single mothers?
I say to my kids, Phil, if you do not work, you will not eat.
Yeah, my dad used to say that to me.
But I'm worried now. You think that's wrong?
No, I don't think it's wrong.
I should say, if you do not work, you will not eat, except someone will give you money.
I gave the analogy of the fishing rod. Most people, you give them a fishing rod and they can, the handout, the money, the help, they can fish for themselves. What they don't want is the rich going around with a massive trawler, trawling up all the fish because we now live in a society where there's such a staggering amount of, I'm not talking about rich, I'm talking about super rich people who are sucking all that wealth and money themselves.
But they're spending it.
Can we not, am I just the dreamer who was brought up in the 60s? Can we not imagine a world not dominated by super rich people, huge corporations, many of whom are not paying tax in this country?
Okay, your analogy relies on there being a certain limited amount of fish, and we know that money doesn't work like that. Hannah in Staffordshire, hi.
Hi, you okay?
Yeah, it's one of those shows today, isn't it? What do you think?
I agree with Angela on the childcare and putting it in so it's used within like the 6 week holidays, for instance. For me, I really struggle because I work part-time and I'm also doing a part-time social work course, and it's really hard.
In the show, Hannah, actually. Yeah, we're talking about this later. Yeah. I'm
a single mother. I've got a 3-year-old as well and an 8-year-old.
Wow.
And I think the 6 weeks are so hard to do without that extra care. And I am on universal credit as well. But I would also like to bring up that I've applied for 60 jobs since February, and they all want experience. And I mean, this is even cleaning jobs. So from that other call, that Lisa from Kent saying there's loads of jobs out there, I'm telling you now, there is not. I'm proof of that. So it's easy to say get a job, but when you're trying and you're doing a course and you're also working your part-time hours and you need more hours, but you can't get it. It's not that simple.
I hear you, Hannah.
So that's why I think those people who need more benefits and who are actively seeking work should be able to get them.
Thank you so much for your call, and
Good
lots
point.
of calls on this, I must say. Okay, we'll move on later.